Greetings. This is General CJG here, coming to you with a brand new State of Star Wars podcast. And this time, this one is about an expanded universe comic, but one that we haven't tackled yet. We tackled Django Fett Open Seasons a long while ago, but now this one, we are going to be tackling Boba Fett, in particular, Boba Fett, Enemy of the Empire. Now, joining me today here is my co-host, Daniel.
Hello?
Yep. Jedi Master Daniel. You guys know him. And also a returning special guest from previous State of Star Wars podcasts. Introduce yourself.
One and only Macho Mandalorian. Oh, yeah.
Yes. The Macho Mandalorian. The Django Fett. He is here. He is back for more State of Star Wars podcast goodness. So, with that out of the way, let's get into Boba Fett, Enemy of the Empire. So, we'll go with our first experiences in the comics. So, Django, you go first since you're the guest.
Okay, so this was like years ago when I read this at a store. And when I first read this, I have to admit, I actually didn't like the story. I thought it was really bland and forgettable, and the artwork didn't really help with it. However, after reading this story again, I think this is a really good story and worth reading. So it's a completely different attitude than what I had beforehand, like years and years ago. And also, just for this review, around 2 weeks ago, I just got, as CJ will show this picture, a Boba Fett Enemy of the Empire t-shirt that I just found online from a store that I was just looking for Star Wars shirts. And this is now my second ever Legends t-shirts I ever have. With this first one being the Darth Nihilus t-shirt, like I got years ago. So
Awesome.
Man,
yeah.
that t-shirt is awesome. Boy, that's so awesome. I have
issue number 1.
bastard. I'd like to get some more used t-shirts like that.
I gotta find a t-shirt as well.
You can always make your own.
Alright.
That too, yeah. So, anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, well, Daniel, want to go?
Okay, so yeah, this is a comic I wasn't too familiar with, but maybe the name sounded familiar, but I recently read this in preparation for this podcast, so probably maybe a little more of a noob to this comic. I mean, I've read a bunch of other EU stuff, but it's not really one that's talked about. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Would you guys say this is a not well talked about EU comic compared to others?
I actually, there's a bit of discussion regarding this comic that I'll get to when I get to my own experiences. So actually, I do have the answer to that. So anyway, continue, Daniel.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe the name, or maybe just never got the chance to read it before, but, you know, like it's just one of those ones I've probably never experienced before, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much, probably I'd have to say, so pretty much, read it just in preparation for this podcast, and, yeah, I thought it was a solid story, and artwork is pretty much just, for the time it was published, that 90s art style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, pretty much all I gotta say. You go ahead, General.
Okay, well, my experience with this comic. So I did have experience with the comic, but not by actually reading it. Here's the thing. I've heard of what this comic has done before, but across other sources of media, in particular Star Wars YouTube videos. The first ever time I heard of it was through the death battle between Boba Fett versus Samus, where basically it mentioned that Boba Fett went against Darth Vader at one point, which is in this comic. So yeah, that's actually the first time I've ever heard of one of the major aspects of this comic. Sometime later, I also heard a few a few people basically the biggest claim to fame of this comic is basically Boba Fett versus Darth Vader. That's the biggest thing I can think of with this comic's claim to fame in a few circles in the Hispanic universe. So yeah, that's what I knew this comic for the most. At the time, I was not too, let's just say, happy, or how do I put it? Satisfied or interested? Well, no, interested no, but I more like not satisfied with hearing that Boba Fett somehow managed to beat Darth Vader in a one-on-one duel. Then, of course, reading the comic that changed, but yeah, that was how I kind of foresaw this comic at the time that I had heard of, Boba Fett versus Darth Vader. So that's what I had heard. Now, flash forward to now, when I actually read the comic, I was pretty much more impressed with how the comic was, because I thought it was going to be kind of average, with the only wordy thing being Darth Vader versus Boba Fett. But no, when reading it actually turns out it was pretty much more interesting than I expected. Not only just this story, but what the stakes were going on, what was happening, and it was pretty awesome. As this comic chronologically takes place before episode 4, it was pretty interesting, like backstory in regards to the relationship between Boba Fett and Darth Vader, before episodes 4 and 5 particular. So it was very interesting, and this comic definitely grew on a lot more on me in terms of reputation when I finally read it. So yeah, so that's, I guess, my experience with the comic. It was more with what I heard about it instead of actually reading it. It was basically very recently, right now for this podcast, actually. So that's my experience with the comic. And I guess for the best to sum up what I thought of it, well, I think we should go issue by issue to see how this comic goes. So let's go to the first issue. So, Django, you want to do the summary of issue 1?
So I'll start by reading the little intro for issue number 1 first. Mm-hmm. So, in the darkest days of the rebellion, when the dead hand of the Empire stretched out across the galaxy, threatening to crush all within its grasp, there took place a meeting between Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, and Commander of the Imperial Fleet, and the bounty hunter Boba Fett. This is the never-before-told story of the murderous tryst and the dread secret that could have changed the fortunes of the war. And by the way, this is 3 years before the Battle of Yavin. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in issue number 1, we have this order of monks. They're aptly named what's the name of it? The Order of Pessimists?
Yeah.
I think that's the word.
Yeah, the Ancient Order of Pessimists.
Ancient Order of Pessimists, and they pretty much let this guy. This guy is begging for help to come into, so they can protect him. So he goes in, and he actually has a gun to them, and he's like, "Okay, I'm going up into this tower, and no one bothers me." So it's this crazy loony guy, and he says that Boba Fett is chasing him, and the Order is forced to protect him. And we fast forward to where Darth Vader is, and he is hunting down the rebellion. And after that point, Boba Fett approaches Darth Vader with a job, and he tells him to hunt this Imperial defector named Abul Karda, who was an ex-Imperial who just defected, and he has an important item that he wants back to Vader. And Boba Fett is going to get this item, and at the same time, Darth Vader actually ends up wanting to betray Boba Fett in this time, and he actually enlists these group of hooligans, these 4 members, these bounty hunters of sorts, very murderous in nature, and he asks them to hunt down Boba Fett and get the chest back, because he doesn't trust Boba Fett. And after that point, Boba Fett goes to this tavern, and he encounters like a bunch of members who were part of Abul Karda's army, and he asks for information, and he finds out some information about this war this battle they were engaged with the Ikari. I think that's a race. I forget. It's like this alien race. So they were in this brutal, savage war, And apparently these Ikari are very special because they do not die so quickly. And even if you amputate them, whether they be their arm or leg, their arms or legs will still move. And even if you cut their heads, they'll still be alive and stuff. Mm-hmm. So pretty crazy stuff, but you will stop them in a way.
They only die if you completely destroy their heads.
Yeah, if you cut off the head, it doesn't work. If you burn the head completely or crush them or whatever it is, that's the only way to kill them.
You have to basically destroy the brain in order to kill them. It's similar to I guess Wolverine in some ways, or in order to actually kill him, you have to basically destroy the brain. However, because that brain is pretty much behind a adamantium skull, it's going to be pretty damn difficult. So, of course, the Ikari do not have a regenerating health ability like Wolverine, so that's the only difference.
Continuing on, Boba Fett actually finds out there's some more information dealing with the Ikari, and they actually have one of the, I think, the priestess of sorts, or the leader. Mm-hmm. Very special leader in custody. And he gets all the information and tries to find this crate from that point on, and I think the issue ends from there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't forget that it ends with Boba Fett pretty much shooting the Wookiee for trying to murder Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's right. And so while he's getting this information beforehand, this Wookiee was fighting the Imperials there, and he stuns the Wookiee at first, I think.
Yeah.
And after he gets all the information, the Wookiee stands up and is about to attack Boba Fett again, but he doesn't even look, and he just shoots him in the back. And he's like, Wookiees, I think he says Wookiees never learn. Oh, yeah, Wookiees don't learn.
Yeah, that's pretty much right.
No.
Yeah. And I think Vader tells the members just to go out, and if they don't get Boba Fett and get this crate back, they'll never be free, because Vader just finds these guys horrid, so he puts a death sentence on them practically.
Yeah, so we'll later see why it's so special, whatever crate Vader wants, as well as the Abel Carta. So we'll see. But that's issue 1. So far, what do you guys think of it?
Decent start.
Yeah, good
to
start.
The series. Mm-hmm. I'd say, like it sets the tone of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a stepping stone into the series. It's not really very engaging, so to say, but I guess we'll see later on. But the first issue is just meant to be more exposition and build it up and give you more information and context of what's happening or what's going to occur later on.
Yes, indeed. So, what do you guys think of the art style, this first issue, now I think about it?
I'm not a fan of it, to be honest.
Yeah,
it hasn't aged well.
The art style, I think it's not the best. It's not horrible. I've seen far worse, but it's definitely not the best. There are a few moments that it does look pretty good, but not all of it. There are other moments that it does look kind of bad. So, and I don't think we can blame it on it being a 90s comic, because if you remember Darth Maul, the 2000 comic, which came out very short, like just 1 year shortly after, it looked way better. So I think it's more in terms of who it was, the guy that drew the comic issues. So it's not bad. Like, I've seen far worse, but it's definitely not the best.
True. So, I would say it was, more for its time,
I don't think I don't think it's a product of its time. I just think because, like I said, Darth Maul 2000 came out like very shortly after this one. So
because you see a lot of improvements there.
Yeah, and even then there were a few other previous comics that probably looked a bit better. No, I think it's just because of who they got to draw this first issue. So I think that's what happened.
Ian Gibson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just going off of that too, I feel like it's going for a more cartoony, humorous style, but I feel like everything is going on is very serious, so it doesn't fit with what's going on at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been better if you made it a bit more realistic than cartoony.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest problems with it.
Yeah, I could agree there.
Yeah, so there is that. Anything else to mention on this first issue?
Not much.
No.
Okay, then let's go to issue 2. So, who wants to narrate this one, or shall I go?
I could do this one.
Okay,
I mean, I have it in front of me.
okay, then go.
So pretty much it takes place, where the first issue left off. Pretty much we see a guy with binoculars looking over at the ship, and then we see in the next panel Boba Fett talking with a few other guys, and then we see Boba Fett talking to the guy with the mustache. Then we have the guys in the forest hanging around just talking, and then we cut to Boba Fett, talking to the one guy, and he's gonna grab like that chain off of him. Then we cut to the Star Destroyer fleet with Darth Vader, and then they're just, talking. Then we cut back to the planet from the beginning of the first issue where we see, like, whatever on Marax Minor, which is the planet
Marix Minor.
In the beginning. And then they're talking to these, like, monks-looking guys, that were in the first issue, that they're pretty much just, you get their part. And then we have one guy that kind of is coming at him, and then like comes at the door, and then this guy shoots one of the monks looking guys, and then he comes down, and then we see the leader, and then we have one of the guys going down the stairs.
Just want to point out something real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so when the guy who is about to give the food says to the Order of the Pessimist, he's saying that that guy's a mad beast, and he said that he'll kill me. Hermit, I don't know if I can give him this food. He's like, and he's like, I could trip and break my neck. He's like, just go on and do it. Nothing will happen to you. You're fine. You're being too pessimistic. And the guy who's gone crazy thinks he's spying on him and just gets shot. He's the it's just the pessimistic guy was right all along, and he ended up being shot and killed from there.
True.
Wow, so much. Oh god. Well, there's a reason why they call the Ancient Order pessimists.
Yeah.
A running gag throughout this whole comic. So
Yeah, and then there's then we have the guy who shot the pessimistic guy, and then he's talking with all the other monks guys. And then we return, and we see Boba Fett Slave 1. He's flying his Slave 1. Then we have that. Then we have, them in some bar with these guys. Then we see Boba Fett talking to some guy. Then he, about the chains he got, like the thing with the beads. So he gets that. Then we have, Boba Fett talking with the guy. And then we see, this light green looking creature. They're talking. And on the paper, the tribal pattern of
Duma, I think it is.
Yeah. And then we see the guys, looking at Boba Fett. And then pretty much one of the guys lost him. And then, so that's that. And then Boba Fett sees him, which is the guy. And then pretty much he questions him and all that. And then Boba pretty much is. And then that's pretty much about it. And so that's that. So it's pretty much... And then Boba leaves, and then pretty much that's about it, and that's pretty much the thing of the second issue.
One final thing regarding this final issue is that apparently Abu Karda was going a bit insane at the end, and it pretty much revealed what was inside the basket all this time. It was the head of the Ikari princess or leader, the female leader that was revealed in the flashback sequence, from the first issue when Boba Fett was talking with the soldiers. So that's the big price. Interesting. So there is that. Thoughts on this second issue?
That was a decent issue.
I thought it was good. I just thought in the beginning it actually showed how clever Boba Fett was, because in the beginning when he interrogated this guy, or didn't really interrogate to his extent, he just asked him some questions. He planted this thing on the guy and walked away. And as he walked away, the guy was speaking, like all of his secrets, spilling out his beans. And then he comes back to the guy, listens to the device he put on him, and it says all the secrets right there. So, I mean, right there, it just shows how clever and smart Boba Fett is, because you really didn't see it like fully in the previous issue. Really, it just showed how badass he is. But in the second issue, it really shows how smart and clever Boba Fett is.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you could say more. Maybe this is more, where Boba Fett lives up to why people like him,
In the Star Wars fan base. In
Yeah.
universe, it's more like he's the, I guess, considered the best bounty hunter in the entire galaxy, taking the mantle from his father, Django Fett. So
Yep.
that much
Yeah.
is there. So, yep. Any other thoughts on issue 2?
That's pretty much it.
Okay, well, I guess go with issue 3. I'll go myself on this one. So, okay, Morix Minor. So basically, Boba Fett, he, when he pretty much was interrogating the people in the last issue, the assassins arrive, and they're pretty much going to also interrogate the same people Boba Fett interrogated, even going with full-on blasters. The assassins report back to Darth Vader, and they pretty much go after him on Morix Minor. So, and not only are the assassins on their way, but so is Darth Vader himself. So that's something. Then, of course, Boba Fett is going after Abal Karda, and he's basically trying to figure out the position where he could be, and his destination leads to him to where the Ancient Order of the Pessimists are. Right now, they're just burning the corpse of Maybub, the one that was killed by Karda. So there is that. And Karda is still threatening the Ancient Order of Pessimists to shoot at them, because apparently they can't stay too quiet to let him talk with himself. Oh my god. No, poor guys. I mean, I know they're pessimists, but damn. So there's that. Then, of course, Carter's talking with the head. That is pretty much telling him that your doom is incoming soon. You're deaf, and we'll get into that soon. Then, of course, the assassins managed to catch up to Boba Fett, and Boba Fett pretty much fights them off and kills them. He did it pretty effortlessly. Yep, the assassins were no match for Boba Fett. I mean, Boba Fett is not an easy target to take down. So, and he didn't die in episode 6, so that much is there. So, yep, then Darth Vader himself arrives with a platoon of stormtroopers, but he decides to go alone after Boba Fett and Karda. And so Boba Fett arrives to the fortress of the Ancient Order of Pessimists, and they're trying to not let him in, but there's no way in hell they're going to stop him. And the only one that's doing any effort is Karda shooting at Boba Fett, but Boba pretty much just jet back through it, dodging all the enemy fire, managed to get all the way to the top, to where Karda was, and he pretty much took him down, throwing him up to the lava, and Boba Fett stays with his prize, which is the basket that has the head of Celestrini of the Ikari, the one that was basically the leader of the Ikari, who's also a sorceress, that can pretty much tell the future of anyone that possesses her. And turns out that this issue reveals how that turned out to be. So apparently this Ikari sorceress, she had her head chopped off by Karda himself, and he stored the head in the basket and wanted to keep it, to basically get all of his fortune telling of his future. And Karda pretty much refused to hand it over to the Empire, to Darth Vader, so he pretty much killed General Nim for it, and he escaped with the basket, and he became pretty much a fugitive. So yeah, and once that was settled, so pretty much it's now Boba Fett against the Dark Lord himself, Darth Vader, and coming next in the next issue. And that's the end of issue 3. So what do you guys think of issue 3?
Pretty good. I liked it. It's definitely getting better. You're getting some understanding of what she was dealing with and predicting the future and how she predicted, Carda's death and how he would suffer in the end. And it's funny because, like, you didn't mention this, but while Boba Fett is trying to enter where the pessimists are and to get her Carda, he's actually he was like, "Cowards, my oath! I warned you what you get," and then he starts shooting the pessimists.
Oh my god.
It's just like he's just so cruel to these guys. Like, god damn.
Oh god! Oh, and just you wait for the end of this comic. It gets even worse for them. So-
Yeah. They say, "Oh, it's Darth Vader," and I thought things couldn't get any worse.
Oh, we'll get into that. So, yes, but yeah. So, any other thoughts on this issue?
I thought it was entertaining. And I think, it gets more, because we're getting kind of to the MacGuffin of the first two issues where we get to the person's head.
Yeah, Celestrina's head, which, I mean, damn, that head really is priceless with those fortune-telling powers. Imagine that in the. Well, we'll get into. I think we'll wait until we get to issue 4 so I can discuss this. So.
Okay.
So yeah, 'cause you'll see why. So yeah, I mean, this is insane, huh? Shall we get to issue 4? The big one.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you want me to say this summary, Django, or you want to do it?
Well, I'll mention it at the end after you're done. You can just do it.
Okay, I'll do this.
Yeah, let's go general because it's almost like an extension.
Okay, then I'll go with it. So now Darth Vader arrives, and he pretty much wants the head of Celestrina. And, well, Boba Fett is not gonna give him to it so easily. And challenging Darth Vader is not something that most people can get away with. So, yeah, this is gonna be insane. So, basically, Boba Fett takes the basket with the head, and basically he throws a thermal detonator to Darth Vader, and Darth Vader survives it, of course, because Darth Vader, no mere thermal detonator is gonna kill the freaking Dark Lord, the Sith. So, and then once Boba Fett gets to the speeder, Darth Vader arrives there, and no escape, one-on-one, mano a mano, and they fight. And, well, let's just say that Darth Vader really is pretty much beating the shit out of Boba Fett. Boba Fett can't really do much against him. Like, he's deflecting all of his blaster fire. Like, he's also pretty much evading his rockets and stuff. And then in the end, so Darth Vader pretty much force grips the shit out of Boba Fett, like pretty much doing force telekinesis on his body, immobilizing him, and then Boba Fett just pretty much jumps with the basket to the lava, shoots Darth Vader in the in the head, yeah, the very face. Darth Vader survived that one, but and Boba Fett thought he won, but no, it's not too easy to go up against Darth Vader because Darth Vader pretty much he takes away Boba Fett's E3 blaster rifle, and he also pretty much is choking the shit out of him. But Boba Fett, the only way he can get out of there is to pretty much throw the basket to the cliff, and that's what he did. And Darth Vader pretty much rushes to use force grip on that head to pretty much make sure it doesn't fall off. So, and Boba Fett uses that opportunity to escape. So, yeah, Boba Fett narrowly survived being destroyed by Darth Vader. Like, narrowly, and if it wasn't for that basket, he probably would have died for good. There would have not been any Boba Fett going to the Sarlacc pit in episode 6 or anything like that. So, that much is there. So, yeah, Darth Vader has the head in his hands. He pretty much returns to the Imperial Star Destroyer with the head, and they leave. The Order of Pessimists are pretty much celebrating that they finally don't have to worry about Boba Fett or Darth Vader. They managed to survive both. And then Darth Vader decided that the Star Destroyer should destroy the entirety of the Order of the Pessimists because they were living witnesses of what happened. God.
Leader says, "I have seen the light, brothers."
Oh, God.
And he gets shot.
Oh, God. Those guys really got the worst treatment ever. Everyone just treated them awfully. Poor guys. So, anyway, yeah, so Darth Vader pretty much is talking with the head in regards to knowing the future. The head gives him two possible futures, actually. One of them is that the Emperor will pretty much just have Darth Vader pretty much destroyed, like killed. And the other one is that Darth Vader will pretty much usurp the Emperor, and he will pretty much take possession of the control of the Empire. And those two possibilities were interesting. So, of course, we know that neither of those truly came to be. But but there was one future that the head did predict that ended up being true, and it happened very, very shortly after she said it. That the Emperor will contact Darth Vader, demanding to pretty much bring that head as a token of loyalty. And it happened, and Darth Vader hit the head, and once he was talking with the Emperor, Darth Vader pretty much decided to secretly kill with the Force the head, and deliver the head as nothing but pretty much a lifeless head of Celestrina, because he didn't want the Emperor to have his hands on the head. And yeah, that was definitely a wise choice. Boba Fett pretty much escapes on his slave one, pretty much just I guess going to his thoughts on what happened, what could have happened, because he actually had a small window of opportunity to kill Darth Vader, but he decided to not go with it, because it could have actually been more useful to him in the future, which did end up being the case. So yeah, at least Boba Fett didn't go empty-handed. He did have a few of the hairs of Celestrina that had jewels, so I guess he did get some reward out of it. And that was the end of issue 4. So what do you guys think of this one?
I'd say it was, it was pretty interesting seeing clash between Vader and
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. I thought that was pretty interesting, and as you said, Darth Vader, you can't beat him, and then, as you said, General, and then I thought, it was a good issue, and then it was interesting how the head gives all the possible futures, and then I thought that was an interesting thing as well, and it's interesting how Boba still has one of the hairs.
Yeah, at least some sort of reward that he can sell for money, because he's a bounty hunter at the end of the day.
Yep.
So there is that. Django, what do you thought of this issue 4?
I loved it. I thought this was definitely the best issue by far. There are definitely a bunch of things associated with this particular issue that I have. So first, it's penciled by a completely different artist. Instead of, I don't even remember the artist's name for the first 3 issues. And the
first
fourth
3
issue, however,
issues is Ian Gibson. The 4th one is John Nadeau.
Yeah, so the 4th issue is done by a completely different artist, John Nadeau. And the artwork is definitely so much better than the first 3 issues, and that's what really captivated me quite a bit, because that fight, and I don't even know if Boba Fett and Darth Vader even had fights after this point or previously.
No, as far as I
at
know,
any point. And, this is like the only one that we can think of, and it was pretty damn awesome. I thought it was also interesting that Boba Fett didn't want to see his future. He didn't really care. He's out for the money. This is the one thing that's set on his mind. He didn't care about his future at all. He wasn't even curious. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then, of course, the ending is just like, Boba Fett actually had the upper hand against Vader. But here's my thing. I don't think that if Boba Fett actually fired on Vader at the time, I do think he would have used the Force at the same time, because it's not like Vader can just use the Force with one hand and then that's it. Like, he could you can use it with another hand and block the shot or the rocket, whatever it may be.
Hell, he doesn't even
still do that.
He doesn't even need to use hands. He can just, with thinking through it, he can pretty much just crush.
Yeah, just look at him and just with his mind. Yeah.
Boba Fett never really had a chance. The only reason he survived was because he pretty much threw the basket to the lava.
Yeah, and they want you to think that Boba Fett could have had the upper hand and could have killed Vader, but I don't believe that could have happened at any point, even at the end.
No,
but it is interesting to think about.
Vader is not easy to kill, and we've seen Vader take take full blast shots, not just to the face, but even a few other parts of his body. So technically, he actually is not easy to kill. We've seen Vader do far bigger shit. In the comic of Darth Vader and the Lost Command, he pretty much, and Purge as well. Yeah. So it's not easy to kill Darth Vader. It's far from easy.
And another thing, to go back to the artwork, if you go to one panel before where Boba Fett throws the thermal detonator, you can, in one panel, you see Boba Fett, as a shot of him, and you can tell how cleaned up the artwork is compared to the first three.
Oh yes, it does look a lot better. Oh, and not to mention also Vader. All he did to pretty much get not be hit by Boba Fett's blaster rifles. He just stretched his arm and pretty much just made the blaster bolts just pretty much be deflected automatically. Yeah, Boba Fett never really had a chance against Darth Vader, and this is why when I actually read this comic, it completely changed my perspective in regards to Darth Vader versus Boba Fett. Because there's some people that actually thought that Boba Fett went against Darth Vader and won, and if he won, well, it's only because of the basket. If the basket was not there, Darth Vader could have easily just killed him, in an instant. Seriously. So there was never any real equal ground. Vader could have easily just annihilated Boba Fett. Boba Fett had no real means of getting free of the Force grip. He couldn't even use the jetpack or anything. He was just pretty much going to be nearly wrecked if he wasn't for him kicking the basket off.
After this fight, towards the end, or I think in the middle of the fight, he actually, when he was force crushing Boba Fett, he was like, you have earned my respect, and I think this would come into play later on. So I think that's why Boba Fett would be his number one guy from that point on. With Empire Strikes Back and all.
I'm curious on what Boba Fett did next, on Vader did next, that pretty much convinced Vader that the same guy that pretty much nearly ruined basically the possibilities of knowing the future, he pretty much will contract him later on. I'm interested in what stories came after that. We need to check that out. We'll see if it's another comic or something, because there's plenty of Boba Fett comics besides this one.
Is there any EU explanation on why Darth Vader says to Boba Fett, "No disintegrations in Empire"?
I think we'll get it. No idea, but we'll get into the EU connection with this comic a bit soon. So, and any final? So something regarding this this issue in the ending. Okay, so I was going to say in the previous issue that can you imagine if that head pretty much fell into the wrong hands? Well, imagine that head in the hands of the Emperor.
Yeah.
Just imagine. Holy shit.
He would want all the things of the future.
And not to mention him being Palpatine. Palpatine would pretty much just completely get his way no matter what happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess Darth Vader did the best choice in the end, but it definitely came at the cost of him knowing the future. But you know what? It's much better than Palpatine doesn't have his hands on that head. Just imagine him having that head. Just imagine the events of the original trilogy. Just think about it. Holy shit, that would have been a whole other level of, First of all, any of the Death Stars would not have been destroyed. That's the first thing. Second, Luke Skywalker would have probably been turned to the dark side a hell of a lot more easier than ever. And third, Palpatine would have definitely avoided any of his deaths, even if it was his clone bodies being destroyed. So, yeah, lots of things would have been different if that head was in Palpatine's possession, which pretty much shows that head definitely had a lot of high stakes, all for just one fortune-telling head. What do you guys think of that?
I think he would make sure the rebellion wouldn't win.
Yeah, that's something to think about. It's definitely something. It's because there's rarely anything in Star Wars that can predict the future. I know there's Force walking legacy the Force, but that's for the going to the past. Well, seeing the past, not actually time traveling to the past. So it's very rare when it comes to having something that can pretty much fortune tell or tell the future, it's rare. So that head was, and that head definitely was a bit more reliable than the Force visions that can tell you about the future. You know, the ones that, for example, like the one that Luke had in Episode 5 or Anakin's visions when he slept. You know, those sort of visions.
Yeah.
This is something. It's insane. So, also, I like how pretty much Darth Vader is like, you've been misinformed, Emperor. I do have the head. It's just the word living. I take great issue with it because it's not really living. It's just that. And he pretty much just shook the head while he was saying that. Like, I'm surprised Palpatine didn't figure that one out. Because that's something.
What was your guys'? I mean, we already gave our overall thoughts in the intro. I mean, in our experiences segment.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is just something. So, any final things to say on this issue?
Not much.
No.
Okay. Well, now I guess we go into the expanded universe connections that this comic has. Now, unlike previous expanded universe comics, like Django Fett Open Seasons and Jan vs. Sith, this one doesn't have too many actually, and most of them are actually for future use sources, not from previous ones. So this comic is actually more of its own thing that was referenced in later sources. So the biggest source that pretty much references the events or some elements of this comic, like for example Marx Minor, is this reference book called Aura Singh, Dawn of the Bounty Hunters. That's the one that references Marx Minor as well as some other characters and stuff from Boba Fett Enemy of the Empire. Like, for example, Abel Karda and Bestar are also referenced that book. So that's so that reference book is the big one that references the events of this comic. That book was also written by Ryder Winham. So I guess there's some quality there. So that's one book. Another source, most of the sources that reference this comic are pure reference books and guides. There's no other comics or stuff that reference them. So there's the New Essential Guide to Characters that references Marx Minor, Abolcarda. So there's that. There's the official Star Wars Fact File 27, which has Fett 12 Boba Fett. Star Wars, the Comics Companion, of course. The Complete Star Wars Encyclopedia. The Essential Atlas, the Ultimate Visual Guide, Updated and Expanded, and Star Wars Edge of the Empire Core Rulebook. So those are the big sources that reference this comic as far as Expanded Universe goes.
Yeah, because I'm not sure in novels I've read, I haven't heard anything as I remember in novels.
Yeah, the Django, you remember any sources that reference anything specific of this comic?
While you guys were talking, I was actually checking the Essential Reader's Companion by Pablo Hidalgo.
Yeah.
And there is literally no mention of the story at all.
Yeah.
So there is that. I do have a few things. So I did point out earlier that this fight may become important for later on of how Darth Vader sees the appeal of Boba Fett when the Empire Strikes Back. So there is one thing with that. And then the second thing, I didn't point this out earlier, but the covers, I think, are fantastic. I love the covers. Covers really speak to me quite a bit more so than you actually read the artwork, because that's the first thing you see, the cover itself.
Oh, yes.
So with these covers by Ken Kelly, I think she did the covers for Tales of the Jedi and Dark Empire. Some of them, I think it's issue number 1 and issue number 4. When you think of Boba Fett, and even if you don't know the EU and you look up Boba Fett EU, I see these two images put up, issue number 1 and issue number 4, quite a lot. So even if you don't know the EU and you see these images, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's a pretty cool Boba Fett. I wonder where that's from. And I think that's one of the iconic things coming out from this comic series.
The two covers that are the most popular are from issue 1 and issue 4. Issue 1 is actually in one of the Legends Epic collections of Marvel. If you check closely on which one it is. I think it is Empire Volume 4. I need to check. So
Okay.
it's one of those. And issue 4, yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, definitely the biggest thing that definitely I guess influence. Well, not the expanded universe itself, but more the community is definitely Boba Fett versus Darth Vader. That's definitely the biggest highlight of this comic.
Yeah, like I mean, these EU fans I've interacted with, I don't maybe recall like anything about fighting Vader. So in any groups and all that I've talked with EU fans, I don't maybe remember it. But I think I have seen a Marvel Epic collection with one of the covers, as one of you guys said.
It's Empire Volume 4. I just checked.
Yeah, I think I've seen it in stores and all that, but yeah, that's the thing. As you said, as there's not many EU connections. I mean, it is. Would you say maybe this is a good starting point for someone that's trying to get new into the EU, or not so much?
Depends. Obviously you have to watch at least the original trilogy first. Obviously.
Yeah.
However,
I mean, I'm talking for a movie only person.
yeah, of course. Now, in regards to, well, here's the thing: the comic you can start with it. However, I don't think this should be the first comic you read, mostly because the comic is good, though I don't think the art style is the most appealing. If I want to introduce somebody to the Star Wars EU comics, I prefer to pick some of the best EU comics ever. Like, I'd say Star Wars Purge is actually a much better introduction than Boba Fett Enemy of the Empire. However, if you're a Boba Fett fan, even if it's movies only, then yeah, this comic definitely is recommended.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say like you're required to read these other comics, because it can kind of stand out on its own merit, like like it can be like it can be part of the same timeline, but by the end of the day, like not everything has to reference this thing that, but it can kind of be on its own, and I feel like you can read this without having to read anything that would be before in the timeline.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah.
Or publication.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, EU connections not so much with this comic. It's more with I guess the Boba Fett versus Darth Vader being the biggest highlight, but for the EU community, not the EU universe itself. So there's not much in terms of EU connections here. We'll see if other Boba Fett comics we cover definitely have more expanded universe references compared to this one. So, but for now, this one doesn't have any pre this comic coming out. It's more post this comic coming out. So the ones that, again, the only EU sources, as far as we know, is all sorts of reference books. Most particularly the Oracing Dawn of the Bounty Hunters, Complete Star Wars Encyclopedia, the Essential Atlas, and the Star Wars Search of the Empire Core Rulebook, and Ultimate Visual Guide Updated and Expanded. So those are pretty much the only ones that reference this comic and its elements. And that's about it for EU sources. So anything else to say on that? EU references or connections?
Not so much.
Okay, well, I guess now we go to the conclusion of this comic. So, who wants to go first in the conclusion?
I guess I'll go.
Okay.
I thought it was an okay story. It's not the best, it's not the worst. I mean, if you're a Boba Fett fan, I'd say maybe, yeah, go check it out. But, yeah, I mean, as I said in the thing, I mean, you probably could read this without having any prior knowledge to stuff, I mean, it pretty much just stands out on its own and all that. So, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much that. And I mean, I'd say, as we've all agreed, I think the 4th issue improves on artwork than the first 3.
Yeah. The last issue definitely had a lot better art compared to the first.
Yeah. Yeah, because as I stated in a bit, I think there's one panel where you kind of look at Boba Fett. As I stated, I think you could tell how cleaner the artwork looks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. So, that much is there. So, got anything else to say, Daniel, or that's it?
That's it.
Okay, well, the Django, your turn.
It was a pretty good story. After reading it a second time and years later and really understanding it, I feel like it was a bit of a slow burn in the first issue. And but after that point, it definitely built up, and the fourth issue is definitely the best part with the Boba Fett and Darth Vader scene. With the artwork as well, it's just really carried that whole series till the end. I wouldn't say it's like a must read, but if you're a Boba Fett fan, I would definitely recommend it. It's not the first one I would read off the top, like as when it comes to exploring the EU and reading Boba Fett stories. There are a couple of other ones. We can probably do a live stream or something later on.
Podcast to be precise.
Yeah. And we can touch upon that in another video where we talk about some more Boba Fett stories. But there are a bunch of others that are probably worth reading some more than this story in particular, Enemy of the Empire, but it's still a pretty good read, and I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Okay, so my thoughts on this one is that it definitely was a Boba Fett comic that definitely I expected it to be mediocre. I got a pretty solid story all around, so it was pretty interesting. Definitely the first few issues, biggest problem definitely is the art style. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. And definitely the biggest highlight is issue 4, as it's obvious. It's obviously the biggest claim of fame of this comic, Boba Fett vs. Darth Vader. So that's pretty much what we got on this one, and as well as the other stuff. So it was pretty awesome, and I don't have anything else to say other than this comic was good. So definitely, Boba Fett fans, easy read, go read them. Definitely, if you want to go the extra mile, go and get the Enemy of the Empire T-shirt that the Django has. So yeah, if you want to go the extra mile, but yeah, Boba Fett fans, read this one, definitely worth it. So yep. And that's pretty much it for this podcast. So next podcast on the Expanding Universe, we'll see what we do. So for now, we'll see you guys on the next State of Star Wars. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
See you guys.